Okay, here we go. Well, good morning, Stacey.
Good
Thank
morning.
you so much for joining me today. For those of y'all that don't know us, I am Christy Goodman, and I am a executive director, and I am Stacy's upline. Stacey Merchant is a star stylist in the Houston area, and I am super excited because several people have reached out and asked me, what is she doing? How has she kicked up her business so much? What's going on? So I thought, you know what, let's just do a quick little interview and hear straight from Stacey. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so first of all, tell us a little bit about you. Tell us how you came to Stella Dot.
Well, I'm a wife and a mom to 3 kids, and I started doing Stella Dot when my now 6-year-old was a baby. I was about to go back from maternity leave, and I knew I was not going to stay in the corporate world forever. I was a pharmaceutical sales manager with a territory that was 2 hours away from my home, and so with kids, that just wasn't going to work long term. So I ran into you, and you were sharing with me what you were doing with Stella Dot, and I thought, you know, I need something on the side that I can do after I quit working in the corporate world. So I had never been to a trunk show, but I fell in love with the jewelry, and so I started doing Stella Dot almost 6.5 years ago.
And so since starting, and I will never forget running into you at the restaurant we ran into, and I'll add in here too, Stacey and I were sorority sisters from college, and then we would also run into each other when I was in the corporate world. And I had kind of thought in the back of my head, she would be so good at this. So it was kind of a dream when we got to run into each other, and I consider it fate. But share kind of a little bit, you kind of just did, but really like, why did you get started with Stella Dot? Like, why Stella Dot? And then how has maybe your why when you started 6 years ago kind of changed to 6 years later?
Sure. And it's totally changed. So I got into it. I love the jewelry. It was still a very brand new company back then. But I just wanted to do something on the side. I knew I'd been to a gazillion or had a gazillion Pampered Chef shows. That was just direct selling was just right up my alley. And so I knew I wanted to do something that would be able to sustain me after I left the corporate world, that I could do on the side and still be a stay-at-home mom. And so I did that, and for 6 years, I maintained my stylist status, but I also had 3 kids in those 6 years, and you know, doing trunk shows every week was not really a reality. And my husband was like, "You're leaving me with 3 kids to go to a trunk show," and so he wasn't exactly thrilled all the time, but I just kept doing it because I absolutely loved the jewelry, but I loved the company. I love the company, and I love the people I work with. So it was not easy over those 6 years, but I would come home from a trunk show and I was just giddy with excitement. I loved what I was doing. And so I just kept it up. I mean, I would have, you know, 1 trunk show every 2 or 3 months, but it was just enough to keep me going. And then finally what changed was my husband changed jobs in January, and his commission structure was going to change, and we weren't sure when his commission structure was going to kind of kick in with this new job. And so he kind of came to me and said, the kids were older, you know, a little extra income on the side wasn't going to hurt. And so he just kind of said, I think he realized after 6 years it wasn't going to go anywhere. So that was in my life. And so he finally said, you do with it whatever you want. Go for it. And so I was like, okay, this is my moment. So I was like, okay, so this was in December. I just had a huge trunk show, the only one trunk show I had in December. It was a big trunk show. And the kids were out of school for the next 3 weeks, and we had the holidays. And so I was like, okay, I've got to start booking for January now. So I literally spent the next 3 weeks booking trunk shows for January. So when January 1 hit, I had all my $.dollar customers orders, which probably totaled about $1,500, and I hadn't even had a trunk show yet. And I had 4 trunk shows already on the books. So my January, I think I was at over $5,000.
Oh my God. I mean, had you ever had a month like that?
No, ever.
Yeah.
Never. I mean, never even dreamed of that.
Let
And
me
so,
add something in here too, because I think this is key for anybody that would watch this to know. Stacy also in this short, more recent time of her life moved to a new city. And so all of a sudden it's all about, oh my gosh, I got to meet new people. And although she had some connections there, like she had to figure out how to work those connections and start in a new city. And so how did you go from not doing as much, all of a sudden, like, I am going to book 4 trunk shows in January? How did you find your people and start in a new city?
well, I did go back to friends, the friends that I did know here. I went to them first. And I, of course I had to start over really my who do you know list. And I started with friends first. But it's actually kind of a gift when you're given a new city, because everybody is new. And so everybody was a potential stylist or a potential customer. So as I would meet new people, I'd kind of feel them out, tell them about Stella Dot. Would they want to come to a show? Would they want to be a stylist? Would they be interested in hosting? And then I would host for someone in my neighborhood, and then I'd meet 10 new ladies. Yeah. And then, it just kind of blossoms from there. So I kind of went from doing my Stella Dot business, but then all of a sudden ramping it up. And when you ramp it up, everybody is a potential customer, hostess, or stylist. Everybody. And so I would comment on somebody's bag at the gym, and then she'd say, oh, I need a new bag. And then I'd be, oh, well, I've got the perfect bag for you. Let's do a show. And she's like, okay. I mean, just literally like that. I mean, yeah, you just have to talk to everybody about it. And it works. It works.
And so in January, you had 4 trunk shows, and that's when you really decided to kick it up. Something that comes to mind, even though, those 3 kids haven't gone anywhere. So how do you work this now around your family?
Sure. Well, now that the kids are back in school, it's easier. But in December, the kids were out of school for 3 weeks. So I have the fortunate enough to belong to a gym where I can literally go check my kids into the childcare downstairs, and I can go do really whatever I want. I can go to a class. I can go work out. I can literally go sit upstairs in the lounge and have a glass of wine with another girl or whatever. And so I literally would check my kids into the daycare for 2 hours or an hour and a half every day that I was going to work. And I would go sit upstairs and I would work my Stella Dot business. And so that was a huge blessing. And so I still have that today. So I can still do that if I need to. But then you also have to just, I have Stella Dot's babysitter money. And, when I go work a show or when I need a couple of extra hours, I have no problem hiring a babysitter, because it will multiply that by so much. I mean, a $250 trunk show that you earn, $50 in babysitting money, it covers up. So yeah. I have a babysitting fund, and so I just work around it. And the kids are older, so they, they're good with it, and they know they know all about mommy's jewelry business. So.
And how old are they?
They're 6, 5, and 3.
So some people's definition of older, that's not that much older,
Right. They're getting older, right?
They're older than little babies. You had a baby for so long. Right. So yes. Okay, so when you decided to really kick this up, kind of explain to me, because I know that you decided, I'm going to go for this glam trip that they talk about. Share with me a little bit about how you decided to go for that, and how you even knew it was going on, and so forth and so on.
Sure. So I went to one of my local meetups, to a meetup that I had not ever been to, and Annette Altus, who was running the meeting, passed out a Glam Getaway tracker. And I'm sure I had heard about the Glam Getaway, but that was not even on my radar. And so she passed out this Glam Getaway tracker. Of course, I'm a tracker girl. I'm a visual person. So I immediately came home and said, oh, okay, this is interesting. And I love filling in the little, up the ladder. So I was like, well, let's fill it in and see where we are. And I filled it in, and I kind of started looking at it and thought, okay, I've had a really good January. I'm going to have a good February. So, this actually might work. And so I just kind of kept filling it out and tracking. And then I think it was in May that I was like, okay, this is really a possibility. Like this could really happen. And so then I started coming up with a plan as to make sure it happened because I mean, the possibility of earning a free trip to Costa Rica, like that had never even been a possibility. And so now I was like, okay, I'm going for it. You know, let's make sure this happens.
And so I think of your husband and his like interest in helping you get this going again. How did he feel about all this and support you when he saw you really going for it?
Yeah. I mean, he was super supportive, and I got my kids involved too. I mean, my kids were filling out the tracker. Like every month we would move it up, and I would let them fill it out. So, I mean, they totally had to be on board because I was doing trunk shows and online Facebook shows, and he, you know, was totally supportive. And he also knew that if I won, he was going to get to go with me probably too. So, because I was going to pay for him to go as a guest. So he was totally on board. So that helped a lot.
And getting your kids involved also teaches them so much more about what they can accomplish too, and so forth. So, okay, so kind of fast forwarding a little bit. Tell me about your sponsoring. Like at what point did you say, you know, I really want to share this with others. I really want to do this alongside others. I want to grow a team. Tell me a little bit about that and how you started that.
So, well, Star has always been the goal since really day one. I mean, when I started 6 years ago, but with still working and having 3 babies, like that just didn't come as easy as I had wanted it to. So it's been a goal of mine for 6 years. I mean, literally that's what I've always wanted to do is hit Star. So building a team was always, I was in management, so I'm used to having a team and running a team. So that was always important. And so I just started talking about it. And so I had a couple of people on my team, and again, talking to everybody about it. I had a customer, she was buying a sample from me one day, and I just said, you know, you ought to think about this. Like she hadn't even thought about it. I said, have you ever thought about doing something like this? And she was selling some kids' clothes on the side. And so I knew that, you know, that might be something she might be interested in. And she jumped right in and has been so successful so far. And so I just had a couple of people jump on my team, and I was always focused on it. I was really focused on Glam, but Star was a possibility and could happen along the way. And so I was prepared for that as well. But you really just have to talk about it to your customers, your hostesses, and really reach out to them because they probably haven't thought about it.
Well, and something I'd love for you to share, and we actually didn't talk about this before we were planning this little interview, is how you were really talking about joining the company, sponsoring. You were talking about the opportunity with several people, and you were trying to earn Glam, and your husband poses this idea of, let's go to Colorado during the last month when I need to go for it. Like, tell a little bit about how, you know, destiny has its way.
Right. So my parents have a house in Colorado that they summer at. And so we had already gone to Colorado in July to visit. We always go 4th of July. And we got back. The kids had a blast. We had so much fun. It's so hot in Houston in August. My husband said, you know, why don't you go back a couple of days in August and visit again right before school starts? And all I could think of in the back of my mind was, I cannot leave. I've got to sell $4,500 in August alone to make Glam. And I just thought, I just don't know if that's a good idea. But I said, no, we need to go. It's for the kids. The kids would enjoy it. And so I always take my jewelry with me wherever I go. And I had called a customer that had not shopped with me for about 5 years and just said, hey, I'm going for this trip. You know, can I drop off an order form? You know, go through it, see if there's anything you like. You know, is there any way maybe we could get some girls over? And she's like, I just don't know if that's going to happen. I've got guests coming in and I've got this and this and this. And I was like, okay, well, let's just, you know, if you find anything you like, let me know. She called me one of the last days we were there, and she said, I looked through the catalog. I love it. I am going to call a bunch of ladies. can you come over at 2:00 and have a show? And I was that day, this was 10:00 in the morning. I'm going to call a bunch of ladies. Can you be at my house at 2? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Done. And so I get there and there's just 3 ladies, but there's this one lady there and she was just loving all the jewelry, just loved it. And she couldn't even decide what she was going to order because she loved all of it. And I just said, oh my gosh, you totally ought to just sell it. She has a house in Colorado. She lives outside of Waco in a small town. She was a former real estate agent. And she was like, I think I just want to sign up and be a stylist. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. But at the same time, I'd been working on my cousin's wife. I'd been working on her to become a stylist for several months. And I just couldn't get her to take the plunge. And she was having a little resistance from my cousin, her husband. And while I was in Colorado, I also checked the kids into camp at the base of the mountain so I could do a little work.
Because they had fun.
Yes, they had a blast, but it was August and I needed to sell $4,500 in jewelry. And so I called her and I said, she was having an online Facebook show with me in the next couple of days. And I called her and I said, here's the deal. You're already signed up to have a show. You could sign up today and be the stylist and the hostess for that show that you've got booked on Monday night. And she said, okay, I'll do it. And so both of those ladies signed up to be stylists within 7 minutes of each other while I was in Colorado on vacation.
So the trip was a good idea.
You never know. Yes.
You never know. You never know.
Right.
And so during this glam adventure and you really being focused on glam, at what point did you decide, okay, I actually think I have to go for star now. Like, I think that this is where we are.
Right. So, I earned glam halfway through the month, which was awesome. So I'd already earned glam and realized that I just needed 3 people to be qualified and the volume was there. I only had to sell 4,500 in order to make the trip, but I ended up selling almost $11,000 by the end of the month. So our team volume was at 15,000. We just needed one more person to qualify. So I had another dear friend that was so close to qualifying. So I just picked up the phone and I got everybody on board and said, okay, girls, here's the deal. We can promote as a team. We're so close. I mean, we literally, for a couple of days, were, I think, $300 away. That's all we needed was one more person to qualify, $300. And so I just rallied everybody together and said, we can do this. Like, let's just, let's think of ideas. Who can you call? And everybody was on board and everybody jumped in and said, okay, let's do it. Let's do this as a team. And they all 3 qualified and we sold, $16,000 as a team. And so Star happened. Like, I didn't know if it was going to happen that month, but it did. And there were 3 days left. I mean, we had to make it happen, but we did.
And share with anybody how you got a comment from one of your team members about pulling her in and rallying her as part of the team, right. And how that made her feel.
Yeah, she had a lot going on. It was back to school. She was helping a good friend run for a board position. And I called her and said, you're so close. She's a really good friend of mine. You're so close. You're $300 away from qualifying. And once she did it, she was so excited and she felt so much joy that she could contribute, that she had sold, $500 in jewelry and qualified for the month. And she texted me and said, thank you so much. Like, I needed the little push and I'm so glad I did it. And so sometimes people just need a little push and shove and some encouragement. And she was so glad that she did it. And you encouraged me to go for star too. And so it's just, everybody's helping everybody out to reach our goals and to make those things happen.
Let me ask you this. Were there any bumps along the way or at any time that you felt like, oh, I don't think this is going to happen? And if so, how'd you handle that?
Yeah, I would say in May or June, I was looking at the numbers and I was going to have to sell over $6,000 for the next couple of months in order to make it happen. I mean, I had it strategized down to how much am I going to have to sell a week? How much am I going to have to sell per day? And it's the summer, which is not the easiest time to have trunk shows. Everybody's on vacation, everybody's traveling, and people are just not really ready to have a bunch of people over because everybody's traveling. So booking trunk shows was not easy, and I had a lot to sell. And so I remember I was reading, I wasn't sure if I could do it. I really wasn't. But with your encouragement, you had sent me a email that basically said, if you don't try, you'll never know. And failure is not meeting your goal. It's not trying. And so I was like, okay, I have to at least go for this. Like I can't give up now. I've got 3 more months. I've got to go for it. So I decided I was going to go for it. But I also was reading Jessica's book. And in Jessica's book, Find Your Extraordinary, she talks about not just having a plan A, but also having a plan B. And I'd never thought about having a plan B. I had a plan, but I didn't have a backup plan. And so she talks about, kids are going to get sick, trunk shows are going to cancel, things happen, and you need to be prepared for that. So you don't want to just go for the exact amount that you've got to sell in order to make Glam happen. You've got to sell more than that and prepare for more than that. So I had 13 online and in-person trunk shows planned for August in order to make it happen. And that's why I sold almost $11,000 instead of just the $4,500 that I needed. So you have to have a plan, but you also have to have a plan B. So great. And I mean, and you came in, you weren't at the bitter end. You came in, with plenty of time to spare. Right. And you made thousands more in commission. Right. To top it off. So that's all phenomenal. So let me ask you this, 2 more quick questions. What's been your biggest takeaway on this journey? Go ahead. And what do you want to do from here? So the biggest takeaway for sure is you'll never know what you can accomplish if you don't try. And set your goals higher than you would ever imagine that you could reach, because I would have never thought I would have been able to win a free trip to Costa Rica. I never would have. I always wanted Star. I knew that could possibly happen, but I never thought I could win a trip, double promote, and hit Star all in the same month. I mean, it was just like the best month ever. So you just have to set your goals high and go for it, because you just never know what you can do unless you push yourself and set high goals. And of course, where do I want to go from here? I mean, just keep going up. I mean, director, just every level up. I mean, I want to grow a team. I love what I do. I love it. I do it with passion, and I do it for my family. But I love my Stella sisters, and I love my jewelry, and it's such a happy place to be, and such an amazing opportunity for so many women across really the world, to get to live your own life and do what you want to do. And so it's truly my joy. You made me want to cry. Maybe I had a little less sleep than I need. But I think I have loved every minute of this. I have loved you being an example of, you don't have to do it all from the beginning. You can have these roller coasters through your career, and then at some point when the time's right, kick it up. And when you decided to kick it up, you went for it, and it didn't even really take you that long, in my opinion. Staceys, you are an inspiration to so many, and thank you for sharing your story, your dreams, your goals, getting vulnerable, because you will inspire more. I cannot wait to see where this takes us next. Thank you. Well, and I also have to say, I mean, everybody is so encouraging. You're not in this alone. I mean, that is the other beauty of, you want to go for a goal. I mean, I had 10 cheerleaders helping me get there. And so you and Tish and Annette and everybody, I mean, everybody is helping you reach your goals. So you're not doing it by yourself by any means. You've got an amazing team and training and everything behind you to help you do really whatever you want to do. So that's huge. So thank
So
you.
true. It's what I love most about this community. So thank you. Thanks for sharing. And I look forward to seeing what the future holds.
Okay. Thanks, Chrissy.
Thank
Okay,
you.
bye.